78th episode of CloudFocus Weekly for the second week of February 2012. This episode is titled Social IPO. CloudFocus Weekly is sponsored by Arkus, Cloud Community Experts. I'm your host, Jason Atwood, and joining me is a co-host. Should I mess up your name too?
Go for it.
Justin Edelstein.
Oh.
See, I did.
Yeah, that people do that often.
Stein to Steen.
Yeah.
Steen to Stein.
Yeah.
We have an agenda. I was going to say, how are you?
I'm okay.
It's not that I haven't seen you in a while, but we haven't had a podcast in a while. We skipped last week.
Yes, we were busy bees last week.
It was a busy bee week. We try to carve out time. Sometimes we carve out the time, and then someone else fills it back in.
Yeah, it happens.
And that's pretty much what happened last week. So, but we got lots to talk about. Some things made it from last week to this week. Some things were on last week and didn't make it to this week. So we're never going to talk about them.
Never.
Ever.
They disappeared into the black hole.
We have a bunch of different stuff. We have a blog post about Analytics Edition, which is actually already getting tons of hits. I'm watching that happen in real time. Twitter launches some branded pages. We'll talk about that and how that will battle with the other social networks. Desk.com goes live. And Facebook does some sort of IPN. What is that? It's an IPO. Which I think is like the big, I guess the second big IPO, but this is sort of the big, other than Google, I can't think of a bigger IPO in a long time.
And we were in the financial services space where these kinds of things made lots and lots of news, and the floor was a-buzzing with it.
Yep.
And I remember the Google one. I remember being there with the Google one.
We'll
talk about it later.
Yeah, I was about to say, why don't we just...
Sorry, you got me going.
Should we just jump right in then?
We could have as the big news, but I don't really... All right, let's go.
All right.
Blog post.
I
wrote it.
So let's talk about Analytics Edition. You wrote a blog post entitled...
I did.
Analyzing Salesforce Analytics Edition.
Yes.
And posted it today.
I did. I had planned out I plan out our blog calendar, and I had written this one down.
You're giving away our secret sauce.
Yeah. And I had written this one in there for this week, with the Spring 12 going live. And my initial thought and my initial thing that I was going to write about was going to be just a straight up review of it. Since I've used it and I've played with it in a pre-release org, I was lucky enough to get into a Salesforce MVP pre-release org, courtesy of Tom Tobin, the product manager for the analytics at Salesforce. And, I'd shown it to a couple of our clients and said, hey, this is what it looks like. This is what it does. So I got familiar with it. I was going to write a review. We always demoed it with the caveat of...
Huge caveat.
We'd say, isn't this cool? Isn't this awesome? And they'd be like, yeah, we need that. And we'd be like, here's the deal. You're going to have to pay for this. There's going to be a price tag associated to this new enhanced functionality. And we'll get into the functionality in a minute. But basically the way that the licensing scheme was presented was that it would be a per user, per month license, just like your Salesforce license. Everybody in the entire Salesforce org had to have it. It was either on or off. And then it was going to be about $40. That was the going number out there in the community and the Twitterverse in the communities.
It was pretty much confirmed.
It was confirmed.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, I think I wrote the example in the blog post. If you were a 100-person company or 100-user Salesforce org, and you think about, you're an enterprise customer, you're paying somewhere around $100, $125 a month a user for those 100 users, add $40 to that per month. You're adding $4,000 per month to use reports, of which, of those 100 people, how many of them really run and use reports anyway? Generally not everyone in a Salesforce org creates reports, certainly, and not everyone even uses them.
Right. It is clearly, we talked about this before when it came out. We talked about it when, they announced it. We talked about when you first got access and started demoing it. There's something architecturally connected with this, that they could not release it as something that's one per. And I know this for a fact, because when they reversed it, and they've now reversed it and now free, and that's the big news. I think we talked about this 2 weeks ago, though. I think it was out. We had just heard it.
It got announced on January 31st.
Yes, we've had one blog post since. No,
we didn't. We didn't.
I feel like
we didn't podcast last
it.
week.
I think we talked about it.
We didn't do a pod last week.
Well, the big news is now
this
a week
is our
old.
pod. Yeah, it's a week old.
Which is that the social pressures, and they did a great announcement on their blog post saying the social pressures got to them, and they said, okay, we'll make it free for EE and UE. Sorry, enterprise and unlimited licenses, which for everybody, it's like a win-win-win. The only two things I can think about it. Well, I was saying, one is I think architecturally it was too tied. There's something about it, something about the way it was architecturally in the org that you could not just do per license.
Well, it's kind of like Chatter. Like Chatter's on or Chatter's off.
It's either
and they have a story for that, just to rat hole into that.
Okay, into Chatter.
Yeah, because I asked one of the product managers once, why isn't Chatter a person by person or profile by profile setting? Like, I want to pilot Chatter. And his response was actually pretty good. It was, we take the stance that it's all or nothing as far as collaboration. Either everyone can collaborate with each other or you're not truly collaborating. Right. And it's a nice story. But, he's like, would you ever roll out email and not give it to everybody? And I say, well, maybe when email was in its infancy, maybe.
Yeah.
Probably.
People did.
Yeah. This is in its infancy. You probably want to do that. And all right, fine.
It's and also what he was saying is a collaboration tool within a pilot is kind of not even interesting because to get the real value at it has to be on. But again, the analysis between Chatter only that org wide because it was free. You turned on Chatter.
Right.
This thing was more like mobile plus or mobile full or full mobile whatever, in that you don't know that everybody's going to use it, right? You in fact everybody's not, but you don't want, so you want to be able to roll it out to the people who were going to use it, and so that's why I 100% know that it was architecturally not impossible, but either they just chose not to, that they couldn't separate out as its own license. They have their own licenses. There's marketing user licenses. There's content user licenses. We know that the architecture for that exists, but something about this didn't allow it. The other thing I will say is, and I don't want to do conspiracy theory here, it is possible that it was their plan to give it away free all along, and they just chose to kind of make it a little bit of a splash, make people want for it, make people think about it. We look at all the products, and we've actually, if we look at every product that they've bought and or integrated, almost every single one of them has gone from some higher price down to some freer price. Right, has come down in value. Mobile used to be 100% charging, and then they brought out Mobile Lite, and then they put in more features in the Mobile Lite, and so on and so forth. Now we're going to get Touch. We don't even know what Touch is going to cost. Content was a pay $35 per user per month. Then it went to free. We know that this is a path. It is probable that they were going to do this with Analytics Edition in the future, meaning it's going to be paid for now, and I said this. I guess maybe we were just talking on the street. I feel like we had this conversation on the podcast, but maybe we have.
We were talking to one of our customers,
and I said this is their pattern, and the reason I think they do it, again, don't have any insight other than being around this company for way too long, is that it's a way of getting back the initial investment in the product. Now, most times they bought something like buying Coral or buying whatever. But this case, it was...
Or buying a Assistly, as we'll touch on later.
Assistly or Crispy News for you old school people. But this one was, internal. But it's internal development that costs money. You pay developers. So I always surmise that the reason they charge for it up front and then make it free is they get people who want it. It's a luxury tax on technology people. It's the Apple tax. You and I go down to the store and buy the latest, greatest machine and the latest, greatest phone every single time because we want it. It's not because we just want it, so we'll pay for it. It's a tax we pay. I don't know. I feel like this is sort of their pattern. I think they were going to make it free. I think they got enough pressure. They thought, you know what, the luxury tax isn't worth it enough, and we can't find enough people to want to buy it. And they're enterprise customers. You're making the math. So I did 9,000 off the top of my head. But at 9,000 users in an org, that's $4.3 million a year. That's not a drop in the bucket anymore.
No.
That's massive. And when you know those 9,000 users the price of licenses, we all know, is flexible. That's a huge price. It's a huge percentage of your price. Even if they were going to give it to you for $10, it's still
Sure.
right. So go ahead and let's talk about what's actually in it. And
yeah, I was just gonna breeze over. I mean, again, like the blog post was supposed to be this in-depth review of what this thing is, and it ended up being, wow, how cool is Salesforce for being a social enterprise and listening to their customers and giving them this product that they want because they want it, and they're not going to buy it because they don't think they should have to. So essentially, Analytics Edition, to me, it's got 3 big features in it. There's limits being raised. There's all sorts of additional things that you can do. But to me, the big 3 are cross-filter reports, which
joins.
Those are... I describe these as things without things. In
exception reporting.
Yeah, in English. Things without things. And I gave examples of some of the reports that you could run in a cross-filter. This is, by the way, coming on February 12th, which is over this coming weekend.
Right.
You might want to run an account where there are open opportunities that don't have any open activities.
Right.
Oh, this is a stalled opportunity kind of thing. So that's an example of what you could do across filters that you could never do before. Show me accounts without contacts. That's like a big one that people always ask.
Always.
For, right?
Exception reporting. It's I want something without something.
Things without things.
Right.
Multi-table reports. So this is, I like to call these like scorecards. You could kind of put different report types on one report as blocks.
Right.
So, you might have and you can group them by common fields. So you can group them by like account name, and you can have, a report type that has, account data, contact data, open cases that are in some status, and open opportunities, all grouped by the account name or the account type, and just have these little blocks across the page like a scorecard that can help you just visualize, I have this big time account and I've got 6 open opportunities, but I've got 4 critical cases open. Maybe I should close those, then I can go talk to them about the opportunities. Like you can never sort of cross that line. Like it was always a up down straight shot. This
no one
allows
can see you doing this.
I'm pointing. I'm doing straight up and down. Now you can go across and see data from multiple report types in one report.
Very cool.
And what I think is kind of the coolest, because this is the one that's going to get used the most, I feel. Yep. This is bucket fields, and this is very much like a pivot table.
So these are the fields that you want to do before you die?
Right. The bucket field. The list of bucket, whatever.
You didn't think you were getting comedy on this podcast, did you?
They still haven't. Really. So this is something that a typical end user, I could see them using very much. And I gave an example of, if you have a field like we do on our accounts that rolls up their value. So we have an account value field. And you want to bucket those accounts into like big, medium, small, based on that account value. Well, you can't do that today. You sort of have to get it out into Excel and create some tables.
I think you can do it. You just have to do it with like a formula field that reads that value and then assigns it based on if it's between this and this.
Yeah, it's ugly. Yeah. So now you just create a bucket field and it has ranges. And you say from 0 to $10,000 is small. From 10,000 to 100,000 is medium. From 100,000 to 500,000 is large. Over 500,000 is extremely large, and whatever. And then you can group by it and use it as a field in your report, and it runs much like a formula and allows you to just do those groupings. And I think that at an ad hoc way, it's a very simple user interface. I think a lot of people will be using bucket fields.
What's interesting is you
could do them with pick lists too. I'm sorry. So like if you have like industries and you want to do sub industries, like you can sort of group pick list values together,
group banks and community banks
into financial services in your report, not have to do it on a big level on a record.
So I had the use case for almost all 3 of these today with a client. and sadly, they're in professional edition. They have some really interesting reporting and analytics stuff that we've been doing with. But literally, the example was days since last activity. So, most people throw a field that's days since last activity. You put it on an account or contact in it, and it rolls up and it says, okay, the number of days since the last activity has been on this, activity history. But it gives you a number. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 5 million. But they were saying, you know what I want? I want to be able to bucket and show people who have been contacted in the last 90 days, in the last 90 to 100 days. And, and I was like...
Bucket field.
I said, analytic. Oh, wrong edition.
Well, you know what Analytics Edition now gives Salesforce the leverage to do? Now there's a real good upsell opportunity, not to Analytics Edition, but to Enterprise Edition. Because if you talk to somebody who's like dead set on Professional Edition, and they're like, well, why should I go to Enterprise Edition? What do I get? And you're like, well, you get record types and page layouts and roles and whatever. They're like, yeah, whatever. Well, I guess you get rolled, but you get profiles. And they're like, yeah, profiles, great. Who gives a crap, right? But if you're like, you get super enhanced analytics and business intelligence that can get you the data at your fingertips that you can't do right now.
Right.
They're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's like a business value, not like profiles.
I don't know if they do this, but I'd love to think that there's some brainiacs in the room going, okay, well, if we charge for it here, we're going to get X, but if we give it away for free, we'll make it back because we'll get so many people upgrade to EE.
Yeah, that was definitely in their mind, I'm sure.
All right, well, go to blog.arkusinc.com.
Go read it.
Go read it, and remember to comment on it in the old...
It has 2 likes.
Discuss. It has 2 likes.
I was one of them.
And I was the other.
Oh, okay.
That's a lot of likes.
Lots of likes.
Next up is kind of an interesting, speaking of likes, sort of. This happened... It happened quiet enough that I didn't see it until it came onto the blog post, or the blog agenda, which is that Twitter has released a branded page for brands, so for Pepsi and for Dell, whatever. I immediately went to go, great, let me go set it up. Then I read, oh, you got to pay $25,000. Oh, it's in pilot, and that no one can really get it. You just, but
it's announced.
It's announced. It's like, oh, we got this thing, and then you're like, oh, but no one's going to do that. Although the people who did it,
you have Nike. They have some examples here: Nike, Intel, Staples, Best Buy, Heineken, Chevy. These are enormous brands.
Yeah.
It puts some competition in there.
Yep.
With Twitter to Facebook brand page is so ubiquitous at this point. And Twitter, you have this brand on Twitter, and there was no way to sort of differentiate it in the Twitterverse.
I think you can get them verified, but verified might have been for the people.
Yeah, but verified's also for people. So there's no differentiation. They've actually allowed you to do some stuff with the page. Now, I don't know how many people actually go to twitter.com. I can tell you I don't. I do not go to the website twitter.com. I use apps to access Twitter. Now, I do know some people who don't.
And I think twitter.com has gotten much, much better. And every time I go, I'm surprised at how much better it is. And I think it's almost surpassed the apps now. But I'm so used to going to the apps, I don't even think about it.
Yeah, there's just things I can do in the apps that I'm just so used to doing that it's like I don't go to the website. I just don't do it. But anyway, so what have they done? They've given the ability to really brand the page, put a little header area on the page, so you can put a little advertising or your branding. Some people are using it as a way to promote hashtags that they want people to use. So Nike, for example, has launched a campaign around Kobe Bryant and used a hashtag in that header area of the page. They're doing things with featured tweeting. So featured tweets, I see these pop up sometimes. The featured tweets, like where someone will ride a hashtag or get a tweet promoted. I guess they're paying for that to show up in some of the trends that are happening.
Why not tweet load? Whatever.
Why not? Right? And I guess that they're doing some settings where they're trying to help brands split their page away from like mentions and replies. So they are different, right? One is someone's mentioning you. One is they're replying to something that you've put out there. Because they're seeing more and more that brands are using Twitter as a way to do customer service. And they want to differentiate the mention from the reply.
Yeah.
And that makes perfect sense to me.
I mean, I'm interested in that. I think it's smart. I mean, Facebook has a. I just set up. I don't know if this made the last podcast, but I helped our local PTA set up their Facebook page.
They made the decision.
Yes,
they went with Facebook.
So I literally had to discuss it with them, but I got them to set up a Facebook page.
That was a smart decision on their behalf.
And we discussed the pros and cons of a website versus a Facebook page. I'm like, it's so ubiquitous to be on Facebook that if you were going to say do a website or if you could only do one, I'd do a Facebook page because you at least know people are there. If you can do, you should do both, and you should do Twitter. You should do all of them if you really want to interconnect them. But anyway, I was amazed when I did research for them. I went and I looked and I typed in PS, whatever PTA for local, New York City, and oh my goodness, hundreds of them showed up and all around. And I was like, see, everybody's doing this. And anyway, so I think it's great for Twitter. I like that Twitter's gonna make money. I always like it when companies make money because I feel like then they survive.
Seems like a lot of money, doesn't it? $25,000 as opposed to Facebook charging what now?
$0.
Oh,
yeah,
$0.
I think that's
like a huge difference. That's not even close.
No, not even close.
If it was like $50, I'd be like, all right, $50.
Yeah, for a landing page, right? Yeah. And I think that's, obviously they don't want to battle the Facebook having millions of pages. I agree. It would have been, or maybe make a plan, right? Start one at $100 a year, and then put one at 5,000, one put at 25,000, and 100,000, and let people decide. If you're Coke, you're going to get the 100,000 because it comes with free tweets or something. I don't know.
Whatever it comes with.
But I think it's interesting. It's definitely making it one of those. Giving it a little bit more corporate. Everybody's always asked, well, how is Twitter going to make money? They do ads and they do this and they do that. But how are they really going to make money? This is sort of the first big thing that I've looked at, and I thought, oh, okay, I could see how you could really make. You have the traffic, you have the users. Now, how do you make the money off of it? So
seems a little steep. I didn't know it was $25,000.
$25,000, yeah.
That means the big boys will be playing in this space.
Well, for them, 25. We just watched the Super Bowl, which was just recently, and we know that people put out ads for millions of dollars for a 30-second spot. So we know that $25,000 isn't it's not big in the website world. It's not big in the branding world. It's not. Coca-Cola probably puts that. That's probably their daily. No, that's probably their hourly allowance on AdSense is $25,000. Or Heineken, it's nothing. So, but for us, that we wouldn't do it, right? But at $100, a couple $100, I would totally be in. I'd be like, sure, let's get a branded page.
I'd be all in. Not at $25,000 for us.
Speaking of things that we'd be all in on,
go on.
Desk.com goes live.
It does. I'm a little upset at myself.
Why?
Because I haven't had the time to actually
play with it.
Because your first user is free.
Right.
So you can basically just go set up a help desk for yourself and have it be
to help people.
I
have one in my house. I just have everybody in my house can put in tickets with me.
I should do that. So this was a Sicily. A Sicily was purchased by Salesforce not too long ago, if I recall.
This is the quickest turnaround I've ever seen from them taking something and kind of rebranding it.
They did the same thing with ManyMoon. They rebranded that pretty quickly.
Not as quick as this.
No, this was quicker.
This was really quick. And then we look at other products where we still haven't even seen it.
Right.
You could say that.
Yeah, but some of those are more like this is not okay. So this is its own product.
Yeah.
This is not a baked into the core Salesforce functionality product. This is a Salesforce company.
This is a Zendesk.
This is a different
competitor.
Deal. Yeah.
This is to say, here's the way I look at this. Like, if you're going to use something like Zendesk, and there's lots of these little social, kind of like quick social desk, help center stuff. If you're going to do that, you're probably not thinking about customer relationship management or big picture or platform plays. You literally just want to start up something for quickly to do it. And so I think this is Salesforce's way of saying, hey, listen, you might as well do something that we own. Yeah, you might migrate later, and we were going to show you a path that gets you onto our CRM product. It kind of reminds me of 37 Signals with the way that they have their plethora of piñatas, their plethora of products, the Basecamp, the High Rise, the something desk. I mean, they have like 4 or 5 of these products. None of them really work too well together, but they all serve these different needs, and they're all kind of inexpensive in and of themselves. So, they're like, hey, listen, I think this is Salesforce just saying, we kind of need to be in this game where we're not trying to convince people to pay hundreds and hundreds or thousands of dollars a month or $100 per user per month for something. We need to be in the smaller market where someone's going to spend free or $2, right, or $10 a month. We need to be in that market. So, looks like they're, I haven't played with it either.
They have some integrations.
Yep.
With Salesforce.
They integrate with Salesforce?
Two-way integration with Salesforce. Don't really know what that means.
Right.
Because I haven't played with it. Integration URLs, which I wouldn't even be touting that, honestly. Integration URLs. You can send an URL somewhere. Okay.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Integrates with Google Apps. That's good. So seamlessly integrate your Gmail support accounts and bring those emails into desk.com. It's pretty good. They have an API, so you can use their REST API to retrieve cases or a customer or something, some data within there.
Yeah, that already exists. When I looked at Assistly before they were bought, or the minute they were bought, I went and I just looked at a thing of it. They used the API to actually look up Salesforce info, so they already had that, which is cool.
Yep, and they have some chat services that you can use. And this is one, Get Satisfaction. Someone was talking to me about that one the other day. They're like, have you ever heard of Get Satisfaction? And I was like, no, I haven't.
I talk to Mick Jagger about it all the time.
Do you?
Because he can't get
Stop
none.
it.
Really?
It's so stupid.
What's the pricing beyond my free? What's beyond free? Because free is
beyond
great.
Free?
Yeah, hit the pricing matrix.
Why don't we just hit the pricing tab on their website? Well, your first full-time agent's always free. Always free. Then they have these 2 different plans, and this was where it was getting confusing for me, because they have a flex agent, and don't ask me how this works, but you pay $1 an hour as you need them.
I get it.
I guess they track how long you're logged in, and they charge you based on it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then if you want a full-time agent, it's $49 a month.
Okay.
It's not expensive.
Not expensive.
So if you have a 2-person help desk, that's $25 a month.
Yeah, I'd love to see this sort of more turn into what I saw the demos. And I love the interface. It's got that new WebPoint 2.5 or 3.0 interface that all these places that they're buying, that Chatter sort of got built on now. I just want to see more of that built into the platform. Please get me more of that into the platform. Does this start to eat away at their own game? Like, does this?
I think so. It's hard to, and I wanted to, when we were talking about this, bring up Radian 6.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's hard for them. When I say them, I mean Salesforce, to have so many messages and so many products. Like, if you're a Salesforce salesperson, I'm just putting myself in their shoes, because we sometimes are in those shoes, and someone's asking you about a help desk. Like, where do you start now? You want to start with Salesforce, but they're like, we need to be social and mobile. And it's like, well, Salesforce has sort of that story, but they also have this other thing called desk.com that's like built from the start, mobile and social. And I don't know, where do we where do you start? Do you even care about CRM? Is that where you start? Like, no, we don't care about CRM. We just start a help desk. Oh, okay, then I'll bring you over here.
Right, but they have whole help desk editions.
I know
Salesforce.
it's a tough.
It's called Service Cloud.
I know
it's its own cloud.
It's weird. It's a tough challenge. I want to touch on Radiant 6 while we're in here, while we're talking about this whole like purchasing and sort of being outside the core product.
Speaking of things that didn't get integrated fast.
And still aren't.
Still don't look like they're going to be.
So I've been trying for a month and a half to 2 months to try to get a login to a Radian 6 org as a Salesforce partner.
Yep.
And
as an MVP.
As a Salesforce MVP who's asked the MVP community to help me.
Yeah.
I still have never logged into a Radian 6 org ever. I was told via Radian 6 on Twitter, go to our website, sign up for a 30-day free trial.
Yeah?
I signed up for a 30-day free trial.
What happened?
I got the Spanish Inquisition back. Why do you want to try our product? Who are you? Like the whole deal from a sales guy. And I was like, I'm a Salesforce partner.
Yeah.
I'm registered. You can look me up. We have lots of clients. Some of them talk to us about social. I need to know your product.
Right.
He writes me back, let me connect you with our SI partner enablement person, yada, yada. Connects me with this person who's on vacation. Thank you very much. Anyway, aside from that, we go back and forth a few times, and I say, look, just want to log in so I can know how Radiant 6 works.
Right.
I've seen demos,
Yeah.
but that to me is nothing. I need to know how it really works. I need to play with it. I need to put my hands on it and see what it does. And she comes back with our SI program is not as robust as Salesforce is our API. We don't just give it out to anybody. And I was like, no, I don't want your API. I just want to log in as if I was a user, as if I was one of your customers. I'd like to try it.
Right.
And she hasn't gotten back to me.
Yeah.
And I'm a Salesforce partner. Like I'm a registered partner. I'm an MVP recognized in the community.
Yep.
I can go into Salesforce and spin up an org in about 4 seconds flat that can do just about anything Salesforce can do.
Yep.
This is a Salesforce-owned company, and I'm technically their partner, and I never even logged into it. I can't even see what it does.
And we've talked to the Radiant 6 people and said the same thing to them, and then they kind of say, oh, do this, do that, and you can't get to it.
I've tried for 2 months, I'm telling you.
Here's why I think
awful
it is.
Story.
Well, if it is an awful story, I think this is why, again, I'm making stuff up because what I do so well, is I don't think that Radiant 6 is something that you just can log in and see. I think in order to get any value out of it, you got to set it up. And that setup is not, because think of what it is. It's a monitoring tool.
Right.
It's got all these things that go out and do stuff and bring in data. So, like, in order to see the value of it, like, it's like an empty dashboard. It's like if I looked at a Salesforce empty dashboard, you'd be like, oh, it's an empty dashboard. This thing is a thing that goes out. So unless someone kind of gets you, I know what you're trying to say. Let me set up a bot.
That's what I want. I want to go in and set it up.
I know.
I want to set it up and see what it can do. I mean, it's just like saying to it's just like saying to one of our prospects who doesn't know Salesforce, go sign up for a 30-day free trial. Call me in 30 days. Like, it's the same difference. They're not going to get much out of that. Like, we know that people, they can log in and see a fake account. They're not going to even know what to do. Like, they're like, this doesn't do what I need it to do, so it obviously doesn't work. We'll be like, no. We can make it do what you need it to do.
But at least you can do that.
At least you can do that.
Yeah.
That's the point.
And you can go
I tried.
test it.
I went to their website, filled out the lead form, got the response. It was how I was treated after the fact, like with the inquisition of who are you and what do you want to use our technology for? It's like, it says 30-day free trial. I want the 30-day free trial.
Maybe they just, I don't know, they filled it out wrong. But, no, listen, I hear you. I think it's strange, too.
Well, you've been asking me, Justin, when can I see Radiant 6? It's on my list of things to do for Arkus.
You're failing.
I am, and it's not my fault.
All right, well, I'll let you off the hook for this one.
Thank you.
Let's move on. The last topic here is the impending takeover of Facebook and the Facebook IPO. It's now been out a week, so it's not as big news now, but it is sort of the start of probably what is, the next big round of IPOs. We had, what's the one that just went? Groupon.
There was also just last year? It was LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, that's true. LinkedIn went.
Yep.
Groupon went, and now Facebook.
So just stats.
Yeah, tell me some stats.
Seeking to raise $5 billion.
Drop the bucket.
That's a big one.
Yep.
Some findings around that. They have 845 million monthly active users, which is year-over-year growth of 39%.
It is one of their biggest stats, is that they keep active people.
Active people, they log in, they use it.
Yep.
483 million daily active users as of December. Year-over-year growth of 48%. That means on a daily basis, 483 million people are logging into
500 million people use this a day.
Daily. It's crazy.
Yeah.
425 million monthly mobile users. So they're really engaging on multiple platforms.
Yep.
100 billion friend connections as of the end of the year, 2011. And 2.7 billion likes and comments per day during the last quarter of 2011. That means 2.7 billion interactions. Like, actual, like, I'm going to do something, not just look at this thing.
And you know what was crazy? It's one of the most stable platforms I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's never down.
I mean, I've heard of it being down. I've never witnessed it being down.
It's a huge deal.
Yeah.
It's not, although Twitter's gotten better, like with the fail whale deal. But it's, Twitter gets slammed.
Yep.
Facebook gets slammed too, and they don't go down.
No. I don't think Facebook. I guess Facebook probably spikes with news articles, but I think, Twitter's even
short
more.
bursts. It's bursts. Like they had
like Super Bowl.
stuff,
I'm sure was going insane.
Yeah,
I wouldn't go to
Facebook
Facebook as much as I would go to Facebook.
Where they were saying it was like 2 of the top 15 ever like Twitter bursts happened during the Super Bowl this year. Like where they count like tweets per second or something along those lines, and it was some crazy astronomical number of interactions.
Right, so a couple things on this. I know Mark Zuckerberg has always talked about sort of not going public, and he said, "Why go public?" Well, what he said, and I've seen a lot of interviews with him, and read some interviews with him, and basically what he was saying at the time, and everybody changes their mind, but like that's not my end game. My end game isn't to go public. A lot of people build companies to go public, and once you go public, oh yeah, we all made $1 trillion, we can go do something else. He's always said, that's not my end game. My end game is still to build this incredible product, and with all the social and the connecting and blah, 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 but not to just go public for public's sake. Although we know the way business works, which is if people give you money, they want something back for that money. And generally what they want back when they give you money is they want back their money, and they want more of it.
Yeah, I gave you money, I want that back, and I want
more of it. And the longer you take to give me that back, I want more.
Yep.
And the only way to raise that kind of money is to go IPO.
There's been some fun stories about after the IPO, like people like who did things early on.
Yeah, the mural, the guy who did the mural, he's gonna get like $2 million or something.
I mean, that's just really cool stuff.
It's the same stuff that happened with Google. It'll be interesting because the story of Google has always been, when Google went, the same sort of big splash, one of the most valued things on the planet and kind of ruled the world, and was, what happened to their culture afterwards. And there's been lots of stories about how, the developer comes home the next day and they're like, oh, what did you do? And he's like, oh, I went and bought, like 4 tons, I bought like 3 things of socks, tube socks. I always wanted them. And, where they kind of made it as part of their culture, they didn't want everybody to go drive home and come back in a Ferrari the next day. Because that can change your culture. And, in a startup, us against the world, everybody comes back, what are you against now? And so will they lose talent? Will they lose people who are sticking in just to get to the IPO stage? Will all of them go off and build their own companies? Lots of people have left Google and started their own companies.
I'm sure they will.
So, I mean, it has more than just the IPO in the market. It more has, like, it could start another wave of technology because all these brilliant guys who've been sitting at Facebook thinking up their full Facebook ideas are now going to go out with their millions of dollars in equity, and they're going to go create more Facebooks or more Zignas or whatever.
Zynga, oddly enough, was another one of these statistics here, makes up 12% of Facebook's overall revenue.
Yeah. And
they're so tied at the hip. Well, Zynga more tied to Facebook than the other way, but that's a pretty big number, 12%.
Funny story, Ghost Salesforce users.
They are.
There you go.
Interesting list of people who owns Facebook.
Yeah, let's hear it.
30% of Facebook is owned by Facebook staff. That is the number one owner of Facebook staff. So however many people. Next on the list, no surprise, Mark Zuckerberg at 24%.
Yeah, that is the big story. He is keeping a huge percentage, and he's staying as the leader, which a lot of times when they go IPO, they want to the board wants to put in someone who's a little bit more, polished. But how could at this point you argue with what he's done?
You can't.
Yeah,
it's the most successful thing around. How do you say,
we're
going to get a better guy than you?
We should replace you with someone who's done worse than you have done.
Right.
Yeah.
Basically, nobody's done better than you over the last bunch of years. We're going to replace you.
What we like to say,
so his 24% is, they have the valuation here, about $12 billion.
Nice.
Dustin Moskowitz, 6%.
Is that
the guy in the movie? Yeah. I'm going to always play this back to the movie, but the developer in the movie is that had the head of development.
Yep. Social Network. If you haven't seen it, go see it.
Go see The Social Network. It's great.
Great soundtrack.
Sean Parker, 4%, the character played by Justin Timberlake in the movie. Eduardo Saverin, 5%. So they didn't, in the movie, they kind of made it seem like he didn't have 5%.
Right.
But he had 5%.
5% of what's his value going to be?
$2.5 billion.
Yeah, he'll make out okay.
He did all right. The rest of these are not so interesting. The last one I'll just throw out there is Bono, 1.5%. Seriously.
That's
Bono through his investment firm, Elevation Partners. So Bono stands to valued at $750 million.
Can I sing a few rounds of Elevation?
Please.
No.
Please do.
All right.
We want our listeners to stay through the picks of the week.
That's right. Well, here they come. CloudFocus have pick of the week right after this. Elevate. Sorry.
All right.
Had to do it. Let's go. CloudFocus have pick of the week. Rolls right off the tongue. What do you got?
I have a product that I was demoing for a customer of ours. It's called XSMS for Salesforce. It's by a company who I can't pronounce. Zarlis
with
an X. Yeah. It'll be on the page. You can click on it.
Show notes.
On the show notes. But essentially, XSMS, my customer says to me, or our customer says to me, I need a way to send mass SMS messages from inside of Salesforce. I don't want to leave Salesforce.
Inside Salesforce?
Inside the computer.
Inside the computer?
I don't want to leave. I want it to be like sending an email template, but I want to send it to lots of people. So XSMS is a product for Salesforce.com that allows you to do outbound SMS, inbound SMS, which is kind of cool, and do some workflows off of those inbound SMSs, which is even more interesting. So
I assume it comes into an object that you can then do anything you want.
No, it comes in as an activity, but you can sort of trigger off. You can have like words and trigger words that you can say. You can send an SMS out to a bunch of people and say respond with the word coupon, and we'll email you a coupon.
Very cool.
Right, and it can either assign a task to someone to go email someone a coupon, or it can just email them the coupon.
Right.
Because it comes back in. So that's pretty neat. You can send a one-off SMS to a leader contact if they have a mobile phone number in the mobile phone field. You can use email templates as your SMS templates. They go off of the prefix in the name. So you start the name of the template XSMS : and that like reads them in as SMS templates.
That's cool. You
can send them to a list. So you can have a list view of leads and send them all an SMS or contacts. And you can send them to a campaign. So you can have a campaign of leads and contacts and send an SMS to that campaign.
Sounds very well thought out.
It is really well thought out. It's a very good product. The product itself is free. So
to install it in the app.
Install it, have it configured is free.
Yeah.
You then are essentially paying for the number. You're renting the number that you're SMSing from.
Okay.
And you're paying for the message rates. So you're paying...
What is that?
It depends how many you buy, but they range from like 0.06 cents to 0.05 cents a message.
Okay.
And the rental of the number is something like $190 a month, something along those lines.
Okay.
You can purchase a vanity... Like, you're watching something, you're like, text help to Red Cross,
right?
And it does the 10. You can purchase those. Like you can say, I want this 5-number SMS number, right? And that's what I want. But you got to pay for those. They're
24 Arkus.
Yeah, they're tons of money. Well, not tons, but they're expensive.
Yeah,
they're not cheap. But if you just need a mass SMS tool and you want to send SMSs to like 5,000 people a month, this will run you about $400 a month to do it.
Yeah, by the way, be very careful about that because the spam laws for sending text messages are very, very strict. So I love the idea. Make sure you know your spam laws because you're actually other people get charged for receiving them, and that's why.
Oh, that is true.
Yeah, you can send emails all you want. You can send junk mail, but when you start to spam people in text, you can get in big trouble. So that's very cool. I'd love to play with it, or at least
you can go to their website. It's xsms. Oh, I'm not even gonna say this.
Zarlysys.com.
You know what? Google SMS for Salesforce.
Or go to blog.arkusinc.com and find show
You'll
number
find it.
78.
And then you just do the XSMS test drive, and
There
it
you go.
launches you right into a Salesforce org.
Oh, it does. So both a test org for you.
Totally.
A demo org. Cool. My pick is, you're going old school or new school. I'm going old school. I am going first to a company that, one of my favorite companies of all time, a developer. Yep, seriously. A company that has made software that I've been using for over 10 years. Company called Panic Software. And they really, I've known them for another thing. I'm not going to make a pick because I might make a pick of the week some other point. But I was looking around. I still have servers. We still have a server that our website runs off of, and occasionally need to log into that server, and I do that through shell command, through a shell command. And I used to have a bunch of apps on the iPhone from maybe a year ago or 2 years ago that you could log in and they were kind of okay, but it's always like that terminal program is it needs to work well, because otherwise it doesn't work. So of course I go looking for one the other day because I was somewhere and I needed to log into the server. I found this one, I downloaded it, and I then realized that it was from the company that I really love. It is called Prompt, which is like the prompt of the at the command line, and it's by a company called Panic Software. It is, they actually have, I think they have versions it's for iPads. This is an iPad only version.
This looks like an iPhone.
Oh no, okay, it's both. Yeah, it says iPod.
It's for both.
Yeah, it's for both. Great. It's $7.99, which I paid easily because what it can do is amazing, which basically is a terminal app for your iPad or iPhone. It stores commands. It can store, logins, so you can log right in and start going at really. So again, this is for only a certain set of people in the world who actually need to log in to do command line work. But it is really well done, and Panic is a great, great company. Again, they make some of the best software out there. So it is Prompt by Panic Software for the iOS, I guess, and it's for $7.99. I bought it, installed it, and have used it many times since, and actually really, really enjoy it. That's it for the CloudFocus app pick of the week and for the podcast. Remember to go to blog.arkusinc.com to look up all the show notes. Subscribe there via RSS. Remember to follow us at Arkus Inc. on Twitter at Arkus Inc., Twitter at Jason M. Atwood, or Twitter at Just Edelstein if you want to hit us up in the social network. We're also on Facebook, pre-IPO, at facebook.com/ArkusInc. Follow us there. We post all the blog posts and the podcast there. So if you don't want to, if that's where you want to consume your news, we also respond if you, drop a note or something or reshare it. That's wonderful. But of course, the best way for the podcast is to subscribe. And really, the number one place to subscribe is iTunes. Go to iTunes, type in CloudFocus Weekly, subscribe to the podcast. And then whenever we put it out, or whenever we don't put it out, you will or will not get it. So today's a Thursday afternoon, and so you'll get it very shortly. So anyway, do that, and we'll be back next week, for sure. Right, Mark? And until then, until next week, enjoy those cloudy days.